This is Wandering Universe. In this video, I'll be exploring a new place somewhere far, far away in a new country on the other side of this planet. Rather than just blurting out to you and spoil the fun, I'll let you guess what it is. So, put your seat upright, fold your tray tables away, because we're about to land. So, are you ready? Let's go exploring. Now, this is Northern Africa. Guess where we're going to go? Go on, have a good guess. Take a good look. Squeeze through. Have you guessed yet? Spoiler alert. You've heard the story of the lost city of Atlantis and the Richat Structure from many different channels and information sites online. Yes, I'm going to be talking about it and what is the big deal behind this bizarre ancient structure. Could this once beautiful city have been Atlantis? But, according to the previous photo, it's just a barren wasteland out in the middle of the desert, situated in the middle of nowhere in no man's land. There is nothing out there, just some rocks. No artifacts from pre-ancients past or our past. Nothing. So, what's the big deal? Does this, as you can see on screen, have something to do with Plato's story on Atlantis? A poetic romantic prose of a once prosperous and beautiful civilization? If it did exist, Plato did a mighty fine job narrating his fairy tale obsession to the Western world. No, I'm not referring to the Disney animation of Atlantis, forget that. Plato's very description that was passed down generations before him, a romanticized fairy tale of the very myth. Well, guess what? No one believed him until now. The myth of Atlantis is about to become fact. Take a look. This elliptical structure is known as Richat, or put simply, the Richat. The word Richat means feather. It is also known as the Eye of the Sahara when you see it from Google Earth. Looks like a bullseye target for a game of darts, don't you think? Except you're just not throwing any arrows to it. This precious real estate is located in the Sahara's Adrar Plateau near Oudane in west-central Mauritania in West Africa. It is 40 kilometers in diameter. It has sedimentary rock layers that look like concentric rings. Just a warning, Mauritania is an economically impoverished country and a particularly dangerous one. But if you dare yourself to venture out alone, bear in mind you bring along your trusted crew and private security with you at all times. But enough said, let's get down to business, shall we? The Richat was discovered in 1965. It was photographed by Landsat satellite and spotted by the Gemini astronauts as a landmark from space. And this is the very photo itself. It was taken on 21st of June 1965 by the Gemini 4 mission. As part of their surveillance operation, they monitored this peculiar thing by taking additional images, information on its size, height, and extent of the formation. I'm assuming that it was a silent ops mission, bearing in mind they were searching for any clues if there were an alien civilization having existed there. So this is just a cleaned up version of the Gemini 4 mission photograph. And I found another one, taken recently. This was taken on the 21st of April 2019 from the ISS, or short for International Space Station. As you can see, you can spot it there right in front of you in clear sight. It's mostly, as you can see here, just a dried up circle of rings with saltwater bed surrounding the inner rings. See for yourself in this photo. Geologists studied its uniform structure and deciphered that it's a blow crater, an object from space that struck the surface such as a comet or meteorite. Sedimentary rock at the dome extends from late Proterozoic in the center to the Ordovician sandstone in the middle. I guess this photograph speaks for itself. So where you see this layer And where you see that, that indicates there's salt on the surface itself. So what that would tell me, and what this would indicate to you, is that there was once ocean water surrounding this elliptical structure. According to geologyscience.com, in their article, they state, differential wear of resistant quarterites layers, as you can see here, has created a high puffy circular crustus. The center consists of a silicous breeder covering an area of at least 30 kilometers or 19 miles in diameter. So I guess this is what they're referring to. Now, this is a very up close photo of the actual salt or ex-salt water ocean type of rings surrounding the very structure itself. And yes, it looks blue from space because of the reflection of sunlight. You also see this kind of salt water reflected from the sun in Utah. You would have heard of saltwater lakes. They turn from purple to yellow to white, occasionally blue, and then it goes back to white again. So you get a mirage of colors there. Now, what's mostly interesting is it's situated on the celestial equator line, just like the other 20 megalithic structures, all using this, the golden ratio, Greek letter for 5, number approximately equal to 1.618. If the ratio is the same as the ratio of the sum to the larger of the quantities. I'll give you a simpler version. A very interesting number that seems to appear in many different forms in nature with some very unique properties. I'll go into that later in another video. But in the meantime, it seems to relate to a common point of balance that all living creatures share. It's also called the golden proportion, golden cut, golden number, and divine proportion. So as you can see, A plus B is to A as A is to B. You got that? And this is Da Vinci's Virtue Man. It's also called Proportion Man, and this picture explains itself. Was the Richat, or the Eye of the Sahara, Atlantis? Known once upon a time ago as the Garden of Eden? Plato's story has captivated people's imagination of stylized poetry to tantalize the imagination. Solon, one of the wisest 7 sages, traveled to ancient Egypt. Solon existed from 640 to 560 BC. He was a Greek statesman, lawmaker, and poet. He was one of the founders of Athenian democracy, and a mildly poetic type of guy, may I say. According to Plutarch, quotes fragments of Solon's poetry paints a much more romantic tone about his life than posterity. What's interesting about this fellow is that Herodotus met Croesus in Lydia, and by Plato to have visited Egypt. Upon that, discovered the tale of Atlantis. Solon mainly travelled to Egypt to learn about its culture, civilization, laws, its economy, and trade system. Solon learned about Atlantis from King Amasius II and Egyptian priests Stephanus and Sonchus. Plato, his great-grandson, said, "For the fact is that a single night of excessive rain washed away the earth and laid bare the rock. At the same time there were earthquakes, and then occurred the extraordinary inundation, which was the third before the great destruction of Declion." Solon asked them the date of when it was destroyed. He was told 9,000 years ago. Herodotus actually was told similar about the age of the river Nile. Coincidence? Okay, let's have a look. 11,000 to 12,000 years ago, plus the story of the Atlantean-Athenian War that lasted between 8 to 9,000 years. So the existence of Atlantis was around 10,000 BC, according to what Plato was told, and possibly Solon's approximation. So if you add them up, 9,000 plus, say, another 3,000 years, you get about 12.5, maybe 12.8 thousand years ago, tops. And this is Plato, the very man himself, how he looked back then, supposedly. Geopodes Plato's great-grandfather, and then passed the story down to Plato's grandfather, Critias, told the story to Plato as a child. Then Plato wrote the story that was passed down from his great-grandfather and grandfather to him. He could have added a few tweaks to this myth. I don't know. I'm just guessing. He made it colourful, though. A make-believe fantasy. That it's quite possible that Solon was told the real deal, separating fact from fiction. Plato became famous because of this. Plato's Critias was depicted as fiction for thousands of years, yet it needed a lot of hard evidence to back it up, until recently. No longer a sick joke, there is some truth behind it. Plato states, Atlantis, which, as I was saying, was an island greater in extent than Libya and Asia, and when afterwards sunk by an earthquake, became an impassable barrier of mud to voyagers sailing from hence to any parts of the ocean. The word island, quoted from Bright Insights, is open for interpretation. It comes with a variety of meanings, such as landmass that resembles an island surrounded by water, whether isolated or surrounded, like a river, lake, waterfall, creek, stream, springs, wetland, swamp, beach, coast, ocean, insular, harbour, inlet, lagoon, reef, etc., etc. And if you don't believe me, here's one done earlier by the very man himself. Whilst I'm casing the place, it occurred to me that there are many questions still remain unanswered. It's like Plato's story of Atlantis is like an open-ended book. Today, there is a lot of skepticism over this claim. However, this structure has left me wondering, what is the big deal about it? Was there such a thing as the Great Flooding? Was there a cataclysm? Was there destruction of great immensity that wiped out everything? Was there a great earthquake? Could it be the structure was shaped by natural formations, such as an extinct volcano millions upon millions ago? Was there a true civilization unheard of today? And for all you skeptics out there, take a look at this. Yep, you guessed it. No trees, no plants, no life. It's all dried up. No homes, no buildings, no pyramids, nada. There's nothing on the ground to suggest otherwise. So you say. I first came across this charming structure a year ago. It wasn't exactly mind-blowing, but it got me curious. I have heard telltale stories about Atlantis during high school, like a love infatuation existed somewhere in the Mediterranean region. Then I came across a Bright Insight video based on the topic, and it got me digging up for clues. Clues that paints a much bigger picture than I ever possibly imagined. Speaking of which, I'll be doing a series of videos exploring this stunning structure over time, putting together numerous dug up clues as I plough through the nitty-gritty whilst you wait in stall for some mysterious and hidden surprises. That's all for now.